Good afternoon, Aristo.
Good morning, Ron. I hope it's still morning over there. Apparently, we've had a bit of a difference. Your daylight savings time is ending this Sunday, and mine ended last Sunday. And I hear you also have differences in time with Peter that are going back and forth.
Yeah, well, with Peter, it's interesting. I mean, we were 14 hours apart, and then they went on spring ahead, so we became 15 hours apart. And now we're going to go on Sunday morning, we're going to go fall back, so we're going to be 16 hours apart when we talk. I mean, the whole daylight savings time is screwy because some places observe it, other places don't. Anyway, I know that's not the topic for today. I don't want to get sidetracked on that, but it's weird.
Screwy by design. Okay.
Yeah, and we had some technical difficulties recording, but it does seem to be working good now, so this is good. So what would you like to talk about today?
Well, let me just provide a topic. Psychic braiding, the emergence of Gnosis, or emerging Gnosis.
Psychic what?
Braiding. Psychic braiding, B-R-A-I-D, like braids.
Braiding, okay. Psychic braiding, moving into Gnosis?
Something like that, yeah. Or cultivating Gnosis.
Cultivating Gnosis. All right, I've got the title. I will jot down key phrases and stuff like that so I can create a blurb as we go along.
Okay. This is also off the cuff, although, while you were doing your preparations, I was, trying to condense some kind of title that would actually encompass what I'm trying to say. We're talking basically about an extension of the discussion from last week's video. This time it's getting into actually answering the question of how do we cultivate abilities? That question cannot be answered in a few words, and especially, it probably could, but it wouldn't be useful. I mean, if you just want to hear the theory and a few cliff notes, that's fine. It's been said many times and in many ways. However, if you want to have something that you can actually apply for yourself, and at least a kind of roadmap or an option that can lead you to a point of taking all of these things that people in the New Age and various traditions and all of these things have popularized and put them in a position where you can use them in a way that the very masters, so-called themselves, use them, then this is the information that might be helpful to you. The thing is that many of us are desperate for solutions, and that desperation tends to frustrate us when there is work involved, when there is some kind of process, some kind of dynamic, some kind of progression. Things cannot occur overnight. In the same manner,
no magic wand.
No magic wands, no silver bullets. And it's a good thing that this is not the case, otherwise we wouldn't be involved in it. We would be passive. Most of the revolutions took place in ancient times. And I don't mean revolutions like the French Revolution, but I'm talking about social upheavals even in nature, breakdowns of society. You wonder, how does a golden age break down? Well, it separates from the actual involvement of individuals. People cannot participate in the creativity. Everything is done for them in a way that, well, it's perfect now, so anything more, forget about it. You're disrupting the perfection. No golden age is, the end of the line. It's a specific stabilization area in order to move on, to get our bearings. This is the fruit of our experience. Now it's time to plant a new crop. Each crop mutates, evolves from the previous crop. The seeds of the fruits that we eat today are going to bring forth trees with fruits that are different than the fruits we have eaten right now.
Natural genetic modification.
Exactly, on a spiritual, psycho-spiritual creation level. And it's not about competition or survival of the fittest. It's the sustenance and the promotion of meaningful existence. There's no, I mean, when the psychopath all of a sudden comes up and says, I have the power to kill everybody and remain alive, that's the fittest. Well, then I guess cockroaches are the peak of evolution. And, you know, for me to strive through all of this that we have done only to end up with a human cockroach is just completely, that's what I mean by meaningless. So these dynamics that are described in the process that I call braiding are the result of humans becoming aware of themselves over thousands of years, maybe more, and codifying, you might say, these understandings into the means to accelerate their own evolution. Now, in our case, it's not so difficult. We're not really accelerating natural evolution. Humanity has attained these states in the past golden age and then lost them in order to reattain them in a new way. All of these things that the basic spiritualities describe are par for the course. Everything that Jesus did is par for the course for human beings. Healing, alchemical transformation described as the shift from water into wine, for example. Prophecy, charisma, being able to manifest heaven on earth. All of these things are natural human conditions. Of course, the psychopaths wanted other things. They want to fly, they want to be able to throw boulders at each other, they want to be comic book god heroes, you know, and all of these things. And who knows? Because the ancient tradition said that mages in the past, far past, could call down thunder, which makes sense because the conductivity of the body changes. You can literally create charges and extend them. They could call down meteors. They could alter the weather. All of these things are viable. Now, however, no single individual should, at this point, have such abilities, because there is a massive organic system that human beings don't need to mess with. Psychopaths are already messing with it, and that is what is messing up their plans. It's one of the big things that is messing up their timeline, their intended timeline. They're messing with the weather, they're screwing with the planet, they're screwing with the biosphere, they're messing with genetics, and so nature is not on their side. If they would do what in the past, they didn't do these things. In fact, they only had done these things, in the large scale in the days of Atlantis, in the prehistoric times, when they would basically, and you can see these in many mythologies, in the ancient Indian text, the Chinese text, that they would mess with the weather, they'd call down thunder, there would be massive fireballs, diseases, they could call up plagues. All of these things led to destructions that wiped them out and created a kind of reset. So after this, there was a period where they usually only messed with human society. And this is the historic period. And this is the will of the cosmos. It's like, look, man, you're going to deal with your issues amongst yourselves. You're not going to bring the planet into the equation. If you bring but the planet is going to respond. There were many upheavals since that time, and they were aftershocks of all the crap that went on during the so-called Atlantean period. And we noticed that they slowly decreased as history went on, only to start increasing when technology became developed again in this way. So now that they're messing up with the world, they're bringing back a lot of past karma, and this time it's coupled with a lot of experience that all of humanity has, and it's in the collective field, and people are challenged to tap into it in their own way. Occultists call this the Akashic Records. Basically, Akasha means ether space, and it essentially has to do with the holographic nature of reality, that any event is within the events that occur within the whole are ingrained in each part as vibratory patterns that one can access and interpret in their own way. They symbolize it as a library and this and that, but that's just a dream symbol type thing. So the whole dynamic of braiding at this time is not to take us to abilities like throwing rocks around and beating each other up and messing up with the forces of nature. In fact, the one thing we can do is help stabilize the forces of nature. As you heal an individual, you can heal the planet. Excuse me. You can heal the elements. You can heal the weather. You know, all of these things are living systems. So the same attention you give to someone you desire to heal, like Reiki, for example. And I'm going to get into this, but I don't want to keep jumping. Everything is a living system, so as you treat your loved one, treat everything else. If but instead of saying, well, I have to love the psychopath as an ego, as a person, as something that's doing something to me, look at the psychopath as part of a whole system. So in that sense, the psychopath represents a mood of the collective of humanity. Some loved one can actually be happy, but they can actually be pissed off at you at the same time. They can love you, they can be sad, they can be angry. All of these emotions can come into a jumble, and they can confuse you, especially men, you know, stereotypically are confused by this, but you can look at it in the sense that, well, a psychopath basically represents a mood current in the collective, a really nasty one. An active mutation to a response to trauma in the collective, not the individual. And then you have escapists represent another mood response. Practical inspiration represents another mood response. And we might say, well, then the collective is schizophrenic. Not necessarily. Complexity of response, the richness of our emotional expression, individually speaking, does not indicate schizophrenia. It doesn't indicate we're dysfunctional. It indicates that we are very, very, we are internally wealthy. And at the same time, something is being resolved. So if you want to look at the big, you know, the resolution dynamic, you have to be able to incorporate the complexity of the big picture. And it helps to understand that in terms of what's going on in personal relationships. Instead, we tend to do like the reverse of this. We tend to look at the big picture as an accumulation of all these arguing points, of all these points that can't get along with each other, and we try to force them together into some kind of uniformity. And we tend to look at individuals as only representing one point, whereas even the individual is incredibly complex. It's like a fractal. You look at the individual pattern and you pan out into the collective pattern, and it's a self-similar expression of the same type of complexity, expanded into the new way. So all of this can boggle the mind. And one of the reasons the mind is boggled is because we keep trying to think inside the box. Even when we think we're thinking outside the box, it's still the box. I mean, so it's because that's what we're used to. No matter how we play around it, the only way to get rid of the box is to be fully aware when the box intercedes in our awareness. And it constantly intercedes when we're not noticing it. And especially intercedes when we're comfortable and thinking, well, now I've attained a beyond the box state. Well, that's when the box comes in and starts orienting you, you know, and manipulating you, because that's the whole idea of it. And it does so by playing with your sense of security. The whole thing, the psychopaths have their greatest hold on us, social engineering, through our sense of the need for security. And so authorities always come in and promise security and use insecurity in order to keep their hold on us while promising, you know, it's like an abused child. I love you, pow. I love you, slap. And so the child's always expecting a caress, and maybe this time they're going to hug me, but the slap keeps on coming. In the end, the only way the child can not die from this or not go insane is to start adapting the mindset of the abuser. Either you become a perpetrator or you remain a victim. And this is
Elvis sang about that, didn't he?
Who?
Elvis Presley. Treat me like a fool, treat me mean and cruel, but love me.
Exactly. Stockholm syndrome, masochistic, I don't know. Maybe it was his relationship with his mother. But, no, this is the whole point, that the way individuals basically treat each other can be expanded into collective understanding. However, in order to be well-rounded, we need to be able to do the opposite. The whole world is acting within each individual. When you practice braiding, psychic braiding, which in Indian is called samyama, your discernment increases. All of these dynamics, meditation, everything, they create changes, and you learn to actually perceive beyond the box. The box is not a thing. It's a way of perception. It's a way of awareness. And that way of awareness always promises security because it's familiar. At the same time, it keeps slapping us. It keeps hurting us. Spirituality and a lot of things that some of the people on your Facebook page assert, and this is where I agree with them, is that the root of our problems is in our own awareness. It's not the exclusive root. It's not like our own awareness is the fault. It's not to blame. But the point is that the solution to the problem is within our own awareness. In that sense, our own awareness is the root of the problem. When you look at causes of problems, the best way to do so, the most effective way, is to look at them as in terms of solutions. A problem is a future solution. And it's not a focus of blame, but so many people are so politically correct and so afraid of blaming, of becoming bad, that they don't want to deal with problems at all.
Right.
And we've discussed this as well. However, it is, to these people, I would say, look, it's incredibly positive to look at negativity as a perspective solution. No doctor can heal a disease without understanding the disease, its symptoms, how it acts, and all of this. Many doctors have come up with solutions while infecting themselves with diseases. Many scientists have become their own guinea pigs in order to be within the problem. Social scientists, although it's not recommended, but many do so in order to, I would recommend it, but in order to be able to embrace negativity as the starting point for a solution. If you don't embrace negativity, because you're afraid it's stronger than you, because somehow the universe is going to do this. Somebody said, if you focus on anything, you're going to lock up the universe, and it's not going to be able to move freely. So they're basically telling me that the universe is separate from me, that I have to act upon if me and the universe are connected, the only way I lock up the universe is if I lock up myself, and the way I lock up myself is by not accepting my own aspirations. They also say live in the present moment. Well, all of your desires are in the present moment. They're not in the future. All of your aspirations are in the present moment. If you try to avoid your desires and your aspirations and your true sense of meaning, then you avoid the present moment. Projecting into the future is avoiding yourself. That's when you basically use the future, a false future, a fantasy land. It's different. But when you get stuck in intellect, when you get stuck in words, it's very difficult to see the difference. So my point in all of this is, even though braiding and gnosis and all of this are just an aspect of true cultivation, of what you might call magical application, they are a foundation aspect. In the sense, because you cannot manifest or create your own reality when you're stuck in a box. It's like trying to fly when you're locked in a basement. The most you can do is hop around, and no matter what you call it, it's not flying. So in that sense, braiding, technically speaking, takes all of the processes of yoga and combines them. But in particular, since you've embodied these processes of yoga, it focuses on gnosis by using concentration, meditation, and the samadhi state, or the nexus state, or the ground of being state, you might say. And what happens to the other aspects of yoga? Of course, they're incorporated, but you enter even deeper practices that involve the cultivation of will and desire, and second, the cultivation of energy movements, of energy experience. and you create a new triad after that. Once you have the samyama or the braiding, psychic braiding dynamic, you can use it and you can apply it and you can embody it. This will literally move to dissolve the boxes around you. You are not going to lose your ego. Your ego is going to be encompassed and embraced. It's not going to rule you anymore. The you itself is going to grow into a new version. And this is not going to be limited by any box, including the boxes of religion, the boxes of spirituality, the boxes of philosophy, the boxes of idealism. It has to, and it does, go beyond these. However, this is a natural dynamic. It's not something, someone said in a reply, so you think you know more than Jesus?
Yeah.
The whole point is that...
And Jesus was actually saying, look, you're not ready to receive all the things that I could tell you. You're just not ready for it yet. And the Bible says these are the things that Jesus began to do and teach. In other words, there was going to be more that was going to come afterwards. So yes, we are knowing more than Jesus was able to communicate in his generation.
Exactly as you say, in his generation, 2,000 years ago, when the whole world was completely different. If Jesus lived today, he would. And in fact, I would say that if Jesus heard somebody say that, they would react in the same way they reacted to the Pharisees. Like, why did I ever say all these things if you're not going to transcend what people were 2,000 years ago? The whole point is that Christ consciousness is common, and that you will come to a point where you can. A lot of people into occultism encounter this, and this is maybe Carl Jung maybe mentioned it, but you become so archetypally resonant with the hero template, the divinity template, in the pagan sense even, in the power template, all of these things, the magic
Messiah
template.
complex.
Exactly. It can become a complex, but complex means entangled. It means confusion. It means the complexity does not flow freely anymore, and it knots itself up. But the whole thing is that you don't need to turn it into a complex to allow it to flow within you. You will experience yourself as a Messiah, as a God, as a hero, as a this and that. It's part of the process, and basically it's also a test for your own ego. Because the culmination of this is that, no, it's nothing special. It's not the point. The whole point is that it's natural. Humanity, what we truly are, is far more than all that. We're meant to be containers of all of these archetypes. How can we contain the whole if we're hung up on all of these labels and stuff? Just be yourself in a new way. And so Gnosis helps you attain a foundation of that. Now, some people, you'll see all these traditions, it depends on temperament. For some people, it's better to develop the energy stuff to a certain point before they enter Gnosis. The sages developed Hatha Yoga for those who were confused by all of this stuff, so they needed to get into their body and stretch it and move the energies around and get a state of internal balance so their intuition can function without hindrance. Sometimes there are internal body tensions, body armoring, that cause our thoughts to move in a certain direction. A lot of people are argumentative or belligerent or this, that, or the other, or they're very stubborn or fundamentalist because they have, blocks in their energy flows because their muscles are tightly wound in places they even forgot how it feels to have a muscle. So all of these things are tied together, and one of the things, for example, that braiding does is you can focus on your abdomen and your solar plexus in that manner, and your body will speak to you. The Yoga Sutras themselves say that when you focus on this in a braiding fashion, the navel and solar plexus area, you become aware of the web of the body. And you become aware of all of the vibrations and the dialogues of that web in a natural way. And many people say, my science or my culture or my parents or my religion, they don't talk about this. It's like, it doesn't matter. You're the one who's talking. That's what matters. Your true being is speaking to you, and you need, it helps to learn to listen. Not just listen, but to talk back and to realize that the dialogue is a circulation. It's not a dialogue of two separate beings or positions. It's a cycling. And this cycling promotes a state where you become confident outside the box. So cultivating braiding, gnosis, and meditation, and all of these help us to realize that being outside or beyond the box is where we're supposed to be. Boxes are okay if we go there temporarily because they help us focus on specific dynamics. But, to be trapped in one is to be in prison. A lot of kids have clubhouses, cubby holes and this and that, places where you want to go think. That's fine. Even cars are enclosed areas, vehicles. But the point is that when you cultivate gnosis, you understand nature with a capital N, not just nature physically, but the energetics, the deeper dimensions, the higher states of awareness. I mean, heaven is nature too. And our concepts in our boxes, that's what keep heaven, the first stage of heaven coming to earth. And I say the first stage because I referred to a past video where I talked about Shiva's trident. The three prongs of actually manifesting, which are energy, gnosis, and desire, will. And these coming together, these three are another form of braiding manifested by Neptune's trident or Shiva's trident, or the devil's, they gave that to the devil, of course. Well, if you want to manifest, then you're demonic, so you have to listen. He's the one that has that. God is over there, you can't get it, so you're powerless. But these dynamics basically ignore all that. The whole point of society collapsing means that you're at an advantage when you call its bluff, when you call the bluffs of the matrix. And you cannot do that if you're not internally prepared to do so with your own understanding, standing under your truth, standing upon your truth, standing within and outside of your truth. All of these things are the same thing because truth is non-dimensional. It's non-local. So basically, your truth encompasses you and you encompass your truth. But if you say that my truth and your truth are completely separate, then you're denying the connection between us. What about that? Why do all these spiritual people keep talking about my truth and your truth and then claim we're all one? What's going on
It's
here?
funny because the people that preach unity consciousness in my social environment are often the ones that have obvious, to me, I mean, looking at it from where I am as a true integrationalist, one that tries to integrate everything, they're the most separate people that I know because, and they're claiming that they're in unity because they only embrace the positive. It drives me up a wall that they can't see the effect of their own denial. But anyway, I cut you off, and I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I encourage it. If you have something to say, please cut me off so we can start moving into dialogue mode as well. I think that is more. How much time do we have, by the way?
I really don't know how much time I need to cut off at the beginning of this. We're at 31 and a half minutes approximately right now.
Okay. I'll slowly start winding down then. The point is that if you strive to desire abilities without being able to overcome your box addiction, and even this whole positivity thing, that's a box. The point is that true positivity embraces everything. I mean, positivity means what's meaningful. Yeah, and true positivity is not afraid, we need to differentiate between fear in terms of somebody coming to kill you, which is not really fear, that's caution, that's prudence, and between the fear of yourself, the fear of your own possibilities, the fear of the future that isn't determined, or maybe based on your idea of it, maybe based on boxes and lies. So there's fear that's really something that helps you. It sets up certain boundaries and you can make choices around them. It's an alert. That's one thing. And then you have fear that's completely conditioned. It's chronic. It has nothing to do with reality. It's delusional. This is the fear that we are challenged to process and overcome. Which doesn't mean we're not going to feel. The feeling of fear, if you really get into it, is electrifying. It doesn't freak you out. When you can channel it, it transforms into a sense of excitement and you say, wow, I can actually make a choice here. I don't have to really run away either. There's a crossroads between all of these emotional states, and the crossroads is life force. It's being alive. A lot of people are taking medicines and all of this, drugs, prescription especially, to stop feeling. But you're not alive if you don't feel. And it's just that we're so blocked that most of our feelings are desperate to express, so they come out in the way we call negative. The way to really, for spiritual people especially, who are consciousness oriented, the way to deal with this is through the cultivation of Gnosis. Because then nobody can fool you. You don't have to listen to these other people, and you don't have to disagree with them. You can actually express yourself, and you can perceive through your own Gnostic cultivation where the points of resonance are with others. I can talk to you from a position of Gnosis, for example, and I can perceive through the energies and everything, in my own way, of course, where you are resonating, and the environment within you that promotes this resonance, the characteristics, and I can perceive where the distance is. I can perceive your fears, and I can come circle to see the seeds of my own possibilities of fear if I don't feel I have them. And thus I can actually move to make choices about the conversation, choices of what my words are, choices about how I resonate all of these things. It can't be done in a day, and there are so many things one can do that, it's just the point is that each person has their own area where they want to really proceed, where they want to specialize. And all of these areas can come together. The situation is not that we're diverse and that we seem to be going in paradoxical directions. The point is where we are not honest with ourselves because we're betraying our own sense. And so what you do is, if you want to focus on something, Reiki is a wonderful example. And it's really fun because Reiki is an occult system. It's actually magic. It's Oriental magic because it uses symbols. And New Agers are really into it, which really amazes me because it's presented as a healing mode. And so it's not dangerous, but essentially you can use the same principles for anything. And the way it works, basically, Reiki is an example since so many are aware of it. And there's actually online free Reiki manuals and all of that, is that if you take the symbol and the vibration around the symbol and are able to feel the energy, as many Reiki practitioners can do, then you open up to meditate on this energy as one with you. You meditate on your being and the being of that energy. Everything is alive to a meditator, everything. And so everything has its own awareness or life awareness, consciousness, you might say. It might not be self-conscious, but it has its own version of the field of being. It has its own waves of the ocean. And so you feel the ocean. That's where the samadhi state comes in. And this ocean is the connecting link with everything. And you feel your own sense of being, and you can feel the sense of being with the other thing. Now, these become natural as you move through the yoga processes. You begin recognizing them. There's no way I can describe them, especially in any kind of video. But as you do so, you hold that state. That's where concentration comes in. You simply hold it. And you sustain it in a relaxed fashion. And you let it work on you and through you. And eventually this marriage takes place between you and the vibration and the symbol. So every time you bring up the symbol, it automatically brings up the background state of being. It brings up its own truth. It brings up the unity with you. And so you can move the truth of that symbol as you move your arm, or you move your leg, or you move your voice. And this is how miracles work. You take a living truth and you integrate it into your being, you actualize it as part of yourself, and you express it from yourself. And this reconnects to the other side because the connectivity is sustained. The truth of what you're accessing, the truth of you, and the truth of the connection are all sustained. And the truth of the connection then establishes connections with everything else. It's there, it's like an ID card. It's a vibration like love. Love is the truth of connection. And if you can just resonate love through to anything else, then there's a recognition of interconnection. It's automatic. There's no way. This is very, very simple. It's a variation of love, but it's not sentimental. It's not in the way that personal, it's unconditional love, but it's still, there's such a wealth of a spectrum of life force experience that one needs to enter it and grow into it. And that's what I say about by maturity. That's what I mean by adulthood, and it's not, I'm better than you, you're better than me. I'm not putting my own experience. I'm not saying I'm this in respect to that. I'm taking myself out of this. The expression is basically given in general to those that find resonance with it. If I didn't feel anybody did, or a substantial number, I wouldn't be doing it, of course. But the point is that for all of those who worry that we're not waking up enough and we're this and that, everything is alive. Those that are awakening truly and that are moving and that are doing whatever you're doing, move, even if you're not into your truth, it's all happening as it needs to happen in an organic fashion. However, this is not an excuse to not participate. Because if you use that truth to not participate, you're not being true to yourself, which is going to lead you to understand that you need to change your course. This is all part of it. We are so used to rules and laws and dictates that and the should. We had a whole video on should, and we can't help but express it. But true natural braiding capacity to gnosis moves us beyond that. Then we can move into these other states, and I might say a few things in passing about them and how it actually moves into more advanced, but I think I've talked enough for today.
Yeah, we're at 40 minutes right now, but of course I'm going to cut something off at the beginning. I don't know how much till I go back and look. So thank you, Aristo.
Thank you, Ron, and I hope it all works out, and I hope to see Peter again in your videos.
Yeah, I hope so too. As I mentioned, he's been up and down with his health issues of late, so we'll see how it is in a couple of days and see where he's at.
Well, good recovery to him, and we shall talk again next week, hopefully.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Namaste.